Hello and welcome to the United Devil channel with me, JB. Fourth time lucky. I'm hoping that this now works, otherwise it's going to be the bane of my life. So let's hope that OBS is now working for me. It appears to be. It might be a little bit laggy, but let's see how we get on with this stream. So it looks like it's working better. Let me know what it's like on your side. It's not been particularly friendly to me today, so yeah, it's we're an absolute pain in the backside. So hopefully now this is better. It's not going to stumble around, which it is. It is not great. It is not great. It's just awful. I can't. No. No, it is back. It is back. It looks like it's back. What are we doing? Are we back? I think we are back. Let's see how we're doing with OBS. I think we're all good. Yeah. This stream has been absolutely, it's been so dreadful. It's been so bad. So let me know how we're all doing this evening. I hope you're all doing really, really well. Let me know how you're doing in the chat this evening. This is the fourth time I've tried to do the stream. Fingers crossed it is. I think it's working. All right, it appears to be working, which is all good. Which is much better, which is what I like to see. So the frame rate is not going to be 100%, but at least it's working. Anyway, so what are we doing? What are we doing tonight? So, as I've been looking at this and kind of wanting to do a slightly different show. Now, what I did do is I did start to sort of record this in a different way. I was going to release a video, but I thought what would be really cool is just to go through it as a community, basically look at a tier list. So this is an idea that I've had, and I wanted to go through a sort of tier list and start ranking some players of the past, of the future. Now, one of the things I am going to say about this list, first of all, is basically how I'm only going to go back to the strikers that I kind of knew and liked, right? So there is a bunch of legendary strikers that are not on this list, and I'm going to say that from the start. Now, the reasoning for this is because I'm only going to talk about the strikers that I've seen. I'm only going to talk about the players that I know and the players that I've seen. So what I'm going to do is we're going to see that list now, and we can talk about what it is, what we have on our list of things, and we can go through that as well. So I'm just gonna sort of move this over a bit. So here we go. So let's move this over. So what you're going to see here is you're going to see a tier list of strikers. Now, you can't see them all, but I can assure you there are probably about 40 strikers. And I thought what would be really cool is to go through this list, sort of rank them, rank these players, rank the list of players, see if you sort of agree with me as such, and then let me know in the chat what you think about his play. So this is going to take some time. I hope OBS behaves itself today. So I really am hoping that OBS does behave itself today, and we can go through this together. So without further ado, let's go through this list. Let me know in the chat if you agree with me. If you don't, it'll be really quite cool just to see what goes on. So I think first of all, legends. So let's go through the tiers. So we've got legends. You know, this for me is reserved for those legendary players. Now, I think it's fit to say that everybody has an opinion on this. This is going to be my opinion. You feel free to get in your opinion. Some of this will be easy. Some of this will be up for debate. What I am going to do is I'm going to give I'm going to give you guys one shot to replace somebody. So I'm going to have mine. and you guys can have yours, whereby you can override what I think is a legend or a cult hero or a bad player. You get one, and I get one as well. So I think it'll be quite cool just to go through that and see. So we are back. So what I'm going to start off with a really, really easy one, and I will go through the players. I'll go through the years they played, and I'll go through their goals and appearances and that kind of stuff. So Cantona, I think absolutely for me is a legend of this club. Now he has to go in there for me as a legend. Absolutely defined the club more than a club. You know, one of the best plays. You know, an era. You know, we absolutely cannot understate. He was an era. He defined this club. I think him and Fergie did all of the sort of hard work, but he was the one that then was that kind of linchpin in that position, and absolutely just was the one who just put everything together, and you know what was the absolute legend for us. Now there are some cult heroes in there as well. So Scott says we are back. So Cristiano. So next one is going to be is Dion, Mr. Dublin. So for me now, one thing to note. So he played from 92 to 94. Come from Cambridge. Played 16 times and scored three goals. Now before I put him down, what I am going to say on him is that unfortunately for him, when we sold him, he'd just come back off a fractured leg. So he wasn't the same player. So the player that played for Villa, for Coventry, for those sorts of teams were not the player that we had. So he never really got an opportunity to shine, never really got an opportunity to do the things that he could have done, which I think is really, really sad. Absolute fantastic player. Now for me, he's not a flop. He's not a bad player. But it really depends on what you think. So for me, do I see him as a good player? Absolutely is. He's not a cult player because he didn't play that many games for us. Now I'm torn between good and bad. Now he was a good player, not great for us, but I'm going to put him in as a good player simply because I think injury curtailed him at this club. But then at the same time, he went on to be a good player. So, you know, absolutely fantastic player. Now, as I said before, we can all have one pick. So I'm going to have a pick, and I'll leave you guys have a pick as well. So I'll leave you guys have a pick as well in the chat. So my next pick. OBS still doing me dirty, isn't it? Come on, OBS. Come on, OBS. Okay. So my next pick is gonna be in my opinion, is going to be my pick in terms of, you know, you guys can have a pick, and I'm going to have my pick, and the person I'm going to pick next, who I think is a legend of this club. You know, I absolutely think he's fantastic. You know, one of my heroes, and he's going to be my pick to go into this, and it's going to be Mark Hughes. So Mark Hughes is basically my pick. You guys can say whatever you like about Sparky, but for me, this is my pick. Mark Hughes for me is a legend of this club. Now, obviously, you may agree, disagree on that one. You know, that is obviously completely up to you guys on that one. But for me, Hughesy is a legend. Absolutely think this guy is an amazing guy. So Hughes's stats is he played from 88 to 85. From 88 to 95. Obviously, there was a break. Some winning goals. Now, one of the frustrating things for me on here is I did have a compilation of some goals, right? And some of the goals that this guy scored was absolutely unreal. So for me, as a player, played 471 times. Sorry, played 467 times, 163 goals. There really can't be many plays. Is that Inish fan? For me, this is my pick for my personal legend of a player. Now, all the other players, we can open this up, but for me, Sparky, the goals that he scored, there was like a bicycle kick thing that he did against the Blues. And the winning goal he scored in the Winners' Cup as well. And for me, he wasn't the pace of the plays, but he had power. I'm only 18, I didn't see old players, but I've seen videos of Cristiano Rooney and other fantastic players. I love this club so much, I'm going to do anything for our club. Thank you very much. Nice of you to be here as well. So, apologies for the video today, is really, really laggy. So, Hughesy for me is my legend. Now, we're going to go on to some of the kind of more difficult ones. So, Brian McClare for me. Again, McClare, 471 games, 127 goals, played from 1987 to 1998. I'll come back onto that. Now, I get what. Now, to me, when you're talking about a world-class player and you're talking about a legend of a player, now I completely get what people say, right? But for me personally, it's about how you feel. Now, I would happily say, look, right, that you may have a different idea. Sir Alex obviously knows more, but from my perspective, Hughesy is my pick. Now, I'll get into the chat and I'm going to let you guys pick who your world-class, if you can agree, who your world-class players are or who your legends of these clubs are. Now, a legend to me doesn't mean that they're world-class. Now, there are legends at clubs. Think about this. There are legends at clubs who are not necessarily world-class, but they're legends of that club. So, being a world-class player doesn't define you as being a legend of the club. So, McClare for me, so as I say, 471 appearances, 127 goals. The epitome of that player who was a good player. The epitome of, stayed at this club for a long time. Didn't mind being a second striker to some of like the better ones, and just a really loyal servant to the club. Now, I would put him as a cult hero. Now, the reason for that is I just think that he's the epitome of what this club was. Not a selfish player. Scored goals a little bit like O'Shea, one of those players that whenever you have those conversations around those early days, he's a very underrated player, but I think if you're of a certain age, and we can come on to that as well. So let me know in the chat who you think should be a legend player of this club. Now, I literally have a list. Now, the next one. So this next player to me is on the cusp. So 275 times he played for the club, scored 121 goals. Played from 95 to 2001. Now, part of the treble winning team, one half of the Yorke and Cole, and of course, it is Andy Cole. Now, where would you put Andy Cole? Now, was Andy Cole a world-class player? No. Is he a legend of the club? Now, I think this is where we can start getting into that debate of where do we think people like Cole and Yorke are. So Yorke will be next. So I think Andy Cole was a better striker than Yorke. I thought Yorke was an all-round better player. Definitely a hero. Do I think Andy Cole is a legend? Now, obviously, I was around and I saw that season. I don't know how old you guys are, but there were times where Andy Cole was unplayable. Now, for me, maybe I need to change the sort of hero, but for me, I'd put him as a hero. Now, again, this is not a, this is all open. This is just my opinion, so feel free to get into the chats and just let me know, what you think. So for me, Cole, again, he's on the cusp. For me, I do think to be a legend, you need to do something either significant at the club, and I mean really, really, really significant, or just be a good player, or be here for quite some time. So I think Cole just misses out on that, not because he's not a good player, not because he's not a legend. Now, some people may think he is, and this is where I'll come on to people like Yorke as well. So for me, Yorke again, so Dwight Yorke, where is he on my list? 1998 till 2002, 152 appearances and 66 goals. Legends are Van Nistelrooy, Rooney, Andy Cole, Sheringham, Solskjaer, Berbatov, Charlton, Cantona and Law. Oliver, those are some really, really fantastic ones. Now, the reason why I didn't pick Dennis Law is basically because I didn't see him play. So, I think it's only fair that I only sort of pick the people that I sort of see. Now, Law 100% is an absolute legend of this club, and there is no argument from me on that one at all. It's just that for me personally, I can only sort of pick the players that I know and played. So Yorke for me, again, part of the treble winning side, and I think if you're part of that, I think you either, in some respects, have to be a cult or a legend player. Now, for me, Yorke wasn't a legend. I'm not going to put him up there with some of those. So for me, I'll put him as a cult hero as well. I mean, only 4 legends left. So Scott, I didn't put Bobby in there. Only because I'm ranking this from the players that I've watched play. Now the next one, I think, let's go for some of the more obscure ones. So Weghorst, I think the less said about him, the better. 31 times, 2 goals, absolute floppadinho all week, absolutely all day. Next one, Welbeck. Welbeck for me, Welbeck for me is one of those ones whereby played 142 times for the club, 2008 to 2014, academy player. I think he was a good player. I mean, I don't think that Welbeck wasn't necessarily a flop. I think that Weghorst is an absolute flop. But Welbeck for me, I think, was a decent servant of the club. Decent player, decent goals, and good. Sanchez, I'm not even gonna I'm not gonna go through his stats. I think again that a player who came for really, really high price, high cost. For me, at an absolute flop, is a player that we should never have signed. 2018 to 2020, 45 appearances and 5 goals. So for me, an absolute flop of a player, no matter how you look at that. Falcao, let's look at Falcao as well. I think you probably have to put him in that flop as well. 2014 to 2015, 29 appearances and 4 goals. Now, Falcao for me, again, one of those players that ravaged by injury. I thought he was an absolute fantastic player in his time. I think injuries absolutely smashed him, and sadly, he was not the player that he was by the time he came to us. So for me, Falcao again is a flop. Now I'm going to go on to somebody that I've got my opinion on him. Now I kind of wonder what you guys will think of this player. So Forlan. So Forlan for me. Now, what you got to understand is Forlan, when he came to the club, you know, Forlan played from 2002 to 2004. Played 98 times and scored 17 goals. Now, Forlan for me, now before people say too much about this player, about him being a flop. Now, he technically, was he a flop? Yes. But towards that end spell, he was a really good player. Liverpool, he scored a hat-trick against those as well, and he scored some really, 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 really good goals. Now, he become, at some point, was a world-class player. Absolutely no doubt about that. He was a world-class player, a wonderful player. When he left, you know, he was the right player at the wrong time, and you know, it just goes to show how good he actually was. For me, I would put him in between somewhere as a cult hero to some and a good player. But for me, I would, if I could put him in between, I would a good player. Now, to some reason, you know, anybody that scores a hat trick against Liverpool, in my mind, is a cult hero straight away. But Forlan was, you know, one of those players that was promised so much, and I think he was the right player just at the wrong time. So we'll go for some easy ones here. So we'll go for Wilson. Wilson, you know, young player, came into the squad. You know, I don't want to say he wasn't a good player. Was he a flop? You know, I don't like to say that about young players. Is it really fair? I don't think he was a bad player. I just think that, you know, he just didn't necessarily fulfill his potential. I'm not going to call him a flop. I'm just going to put him into the bad player list, only on the basis that, you know, he promised a lot, but then really just didn't get his chance as such. Next one, we'll go for Rossi. Now, for those of you who remember him, we got him from Parma Youth. Played 14 times, scored a single goal. Now, he was supposedly Emmy, flop like Amorin. Welcome, Emmy. So Rossi for me was a flop. You know, promised a lot. You know, this young kid who was going to be this next big thing. 14 times. I think it was very, very quickly established that he wasn't great at all. So for me, I think he was an absolute flop for me. Where should we go next? So we'll go. Where should we go next? Where should we go? Okay, let's go to Dong Fangju. So whoever remembers Dong Fangju. Now, Dong Fangju, 2004 to 2000. So he was here from 2004 to 2008. Played three times. A player who was basically signed for the Chinese market, effectively. Yeah, just absolutely, just a flop player. I to this day, one of those players that I think Fergie just signed just because it was a marketing chance. He basically was here for 4 years, didn't played 4 games, and that was it. So absolutely flop player. You know, there really isn't too much to say about him. Yeah, just right. It's bugging me now. Who's the 19? Who's the 19? I'm good. The middle guy, I want to say Welbeck. This guy, yeah, that one. This one, yeah. His head's been chopped off. That is Welbeck there, yeah. So, next one, Josh King. So, this is Josh King. Josh King in 2012 to 2013 from the youth academy, played 2 times. Now, not a flop. and again, maybe I do need to change the sort of wording on this slightly from a bad player. Now, probably not a bad player. I'm gonna actually change this to say I'm gonna change this because I don't think that's really fair. I'm just gonna say not good enough. Not good enough. There you go. I've just changed that on the fly. Just because I just think that these two young guys, they came through the sort of they were teenagers, youth players, and I don't really think it's fair to say that they were bad players. They weren't, just that they didn't reach potential. I could have that for all sorts of them. So let's just say that they didn't reach their potential, but not good enough for us. But then again, you could argue that with tons of players. So next one, Michael Owen, whose head seems to have disappeared. So Michael Owen, 2009 to 2012, 52 appearances and 17 goals. Now, we got the Michael Owen at the very end of his career. The Newcastle Owen, so we didn't even get the Liverpool Owen, we didn't even get the Madrid Owen, we got the Newcastle one. Michael Owen, in his day, probably one of the best strikers that the world has seen. 17, 18, won the Golden Boot at 17 and 18, the Ballon d'Or. I remember the game in which he ended his career pretty much was an international game when he twisted his knee, and that was the sort of end of his career. Now, if you listen to him towards the end of his career, for me, he was not good enough, but he did score the winner. Right, ME, that's exactly my point. So, I'll tell you a story. So, many years ago, I went to Thailand, right? And this was the game that was on. So we scored first, City scored, we were sort of winning 3-1, I think it was, and then they came back, and I moved from bar to bar to bar, and I managed to get into like another bar at like the very end, and he scored a goal. And for me, not good enough, I think you're right, but from 18 to 22, he was one of the world's best. Exactly. So I think Owen for me is a good player. I think he was a good player. You can argue he wasn't good enough at that time, but he still showed glimpses of what he could do. So Michael Owen for me, I think, was a good player. You could argue not good enough by the time that he came, but for me, I thought he was a good player. Mason Greenwood. Now, we're not going to hide away. I wasn't going to put him on the list because of recent events. But then I thought, well, actually, no. I think we need to assess all of the strikers, particularly him as well. 2019 to 2023, 129 appearances and 35 goals. Now, when we're judging him, I don't struggle necessarily, just only because he could have been so much more. Now, is he better than a good player? Yes. He certainly wasn't a flop. Now, where do we put him? And this is the thing here. Now, he's not a legend. Some may call him a cult hero, and I think that Greenwood was so good down for us. Why did he get Nobel? Good player, even though of what he did. Exactly. So I'd put him in as a good player. Now, I'm not going to argue with people who would call him a cult legend, a cult hero, on the basis of what he did at a young age. What a talent. For me, he was a good player. It's really difficult to rank him up higher than that. Could he have been? Yes, without a doubt. A legend? Probably not. But what a player. You know, 129 goals, 129 games, 35 goals. Between exactly, I think he would be a great player. Do you know what? I think I might add one in actually. Let me add one in. I think I can add one in. Let's do that. 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 Let's call it great player. Great player. I like that. I like that. I like that. Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's change these colours about a little bit. Let's do that. Let's do that. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Let's do that, guys. Right. So we now got a great player. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Mason Mount there. I can't be fairer than that, right? So I think great player. Potential. So much potential. Wasted potential for me. It's just really, really sad. Next. So where do we go next? Igalo. I'm just going to put him straight into the flop category. You know, Watford, really, really good player at Watford. You know, just what can I really say about him, really? Yeah, just don't really know what to say. Just, yeah. Can't really say much about him. Now, this next player, right? You're going to shoot me for this one. Flop no words. Now, I'm literally just going to put him straight in at a cult hero. Okay? So this player, and you're going to think I'm a little bit mental. So he played for us from 2008 to 2014, 36 times and scored 5 goals. I'm putting him straight in at a cult hero, and that is Makeda. Just not the best player, but for what he did, for the goal that he scored in the time that we needed him to score, for me, there are certain things for me that can be a cult, right? There is a certain thing. There's a certain player that could have done a certain thing at a certain time, scored a particular goal, could have done a certain thing for this club. You may not agree, and absolutely, I do not. You know, that's fine. But Makeda for me, won us the league. You know, again, exactly that. So for me, a cult hero, you know, not based on, you know, if we're talking about the ability of the player, you know, absolutely, you know, just not the greatest of players, in my opinion, but won us the league. So cult hero for me, yeah, brilliant. Next player for me, 2003 to 2006, 40 appearances and 8 goals. I didn't know that he played for us that many times. Come from Sunderland Youth, I believe it was Bellion. Not good enough. You could probably argue that he was a flop. So Bellion for me was supposed to be the sort of the next big thing at this club. You know, pace, absolute pace to burn. If you played any of the championship like games around on the Xbox and like PlayStation, he was, you know, that big thing in there. Now, was he a flop? I think it's harsh. Did he flop? Now, he didn't come from our youth academy, so I'm going to say that he was a flop. I don't like to say that about players, but for me, you know, he came in from another club. You know, we paid legitimate cash for him. He was supposedly the next big thing. but to be fair, he was a yeah. I did expect quite a lot of this player. This new pacey French player. But yeah, for me, absolute flop for me. Next one for me, Man Utd. Now, Man Utd, I completely forgot about him. Now, played from 2008 to 2009. Played 3 times. We got him from let's have a little look from Anderlecht. Absolute flop. I'd be surprised if anybody knows who he was if you saw him play. I remember him signing Man Utd. I remember him signing. I remember me being moderately excited about this player, and absolutely did not live up to what he was. There literally isn't much to say on this lad. Yeah, absolute just should ME. Don't worry, my friend. Sometimes you got to save the best till last, right? There are many people who are not on this list at the moment either, so don't worry about it. So next let's go for Louis Saha. Louis Saha, 2004 to 2008, 124 games and 42 goals. Now I'm just going to put him in simply as a good player. On the cusp of being a great player, around that time, where Ferguson did a lot of these striker sort of second striker deals that we should be doing now. Fulham, very, very pacey player, very, very powerful player. I think a very, very underrated player. I didn't know you had loads of picks at the bottom. So, absolute very, very close to being a great player. For me, just a really, really good player. So I'm going to put him in as a good player. I think his injuries curtailed him from being a great player. Again, he was a great player, but just slightly lacked from being a great player. But I know, again, a fantastic player in his own right. Just a bit injury prone when he came to us. Diouf. So yeah, so this is Diouf, 2009 to 2012. Got him from Mulder. Played 9 games, scored 1 goal. Again, absolute flop. If he'd have come through the youth, I probably would have put him up. Diouf for me, again, we signed him. Not for loads of money, but again, I think when you buy players outside of the club and they don't come in through the ranks, I think you have to kind of look at them in a separate way. Just a player, again, that of all the players that Fergie signed or we've signed over the years, if you look at the strikers that we've signed who are not good enough, there are plenty of those strikers around. Next one, controversial one. Speaking of Saha, he made some money from football. He's now worth over $6 billion through his sports agency company he made after retiring. I did not know that. It wouldn't surprise me. He was always a really well-spoken, well-put-together guy. So, I'm really pleased for him. He seems like a really, really smart guy as well. So, that's fantastic stuff. Controversial one next. Carlos Tevez. There really should be another line in here for snakes. Carlos Tevez. It's a shame the way that he left the club. There are some stories and things that I sort of hear about him, and kind of the way that he sort of left the club. He's certainly not a flop. I really loathe, but I've got to put him as a great player. He's a rat, absolute rat, and I'm going to, in case anybody tries to watch this and tries to call me out, absolute rat. But I've got to be absolutely honest and absolutely down the line and fair on this one, and just say that, you know, he was a great player. You know, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind for us and for others. You know, he was a great player. So I'm not going to say too much about him. I'm not going to read his stats because he's a rat. But it is what it is. Right. So now let's go to Alan Smith. So Alan Smith from Leeds. Alan Smith. I'm just trying to find his game time. Alan Smith, 2004 to 2007, played 93 times and scored 12 goals. Can you remember him? And Mascherano just randomly turned up at West Ham. Yes, I can. I remember. What was their dodgy agent called? Kia Charabchim or something his name was. And yeah, and he basically rocked up with like those two players, and it was some dodgy, weird deal. Yeah, I mean, he was a great player. I mean, he loved to score against like us as well, didn't he? So, you know, it pains me. It really does pain me. But Tevez was a good player. Alan Smith, Leeds player, which doesn't typically happen. Great player at Leeds. But the thing that curtailed Alan Smith was an injury. I think it was in his couple of games in his first game he scored an absolute amazing goal, and I was there to watch that. I think I was in the pub. Scored an absolute fantastic goal. The problem was he got injured, and then he was out for he was probably out for the best part of 18 months. I mean, he was really badly injured. Around that time, Solskjaer was out as well, and I remember the Roma game where Alan Smith came back. You know, Ria was good. Exactly. So kind of, I thought he was a good player. I'm going to put him as a good player, right? And the reason why I'm going to put him as a good player is because he was a good player. You know, I love the fact that he came back. I love the fact he scored in the 7-2 win over Roma in the Champions League. You know, it took him a long time to get back. It was a really horrific injury. You know, he was good enough. And maybe I'm looking at this through eyes. You know, maybe things look better with time. But for me, he was a good player, but just injury prone. So for me, I think to be fair to him, I'll put him as a good player. So now we are whittling our way down to. So there is a player that I've got on this list that I'm struggling. I think he is he absolutely smashed his leg to pieces. Now, I think this is Wilson as well. So I've put him on here twice. So I'm going to ignore him. That's him as well, I think. Who is that? Wilson's down there. Sancho, Igalo, Cavani, Højlund. Ignore this picture here for a second. So, it's Berbatov. For me, a cult hero. You can say what you like on him. I absolutely love this player. Great signing from Spurs. Played from 2008 to 2012, 149 games, 56 goals. We signed him for a lot of money. Now, for me, a cult hero in terms of the things that he did. Again, a cult hero to me is somebody that can do things that other players can't. Now, they don't necessarily have to be world-class players. They don't necessarily have to score the most amazing goals. But just as a personality, the first person to remind me of Eric since he left. Now, I'm not trying to say that he was the same player, but absolute just like the byline skill, the Liverpool goals, the way that he just scored goals, the way he just moved the ball. Sometimes he looked like he was on a beach, but the guy was just unplayable at times. I think if you never watched him play, he showed it at Spurs, but then when he came to us, he was just another level. I've never seen a player, kind of move in the way that he did. Not slouch on his day, but not particularly quick. But the way he moved his body, the way he moved that ball, he was just an utter joy. And for me, absolutely cult hero. I'm going to go in with another cult hero for me. Xerxes, I agree with you, ME, on that one as well. Now, I think another cult hero for me, you could put him as a legend, but I'm not going to go that far. But a cult hero for me is Ollie. Solskjaer for me, cult hero. What can I say? Every time I hear that and Solskjaer has won it in the Champions League final, it still sends shivers in my spine. Just an absolute, what a very underrated striker. Now, I should tell you for why he is, right? Because he was a student of the game. So there was, if you listen to him speak, in terms of his career, and if you listen to him speak, the reason why he was such a good sub was because he used to watch the game and take notes. So he would take notes and he would look and pick up tips. So he'd be watching the game as well as just sat there on the bench. So he would mark out weaknesses of players. So when he came onto the pitch fresh, he wasn't the slowest, wasn't like the quickest of players, but he had really good feet and a really good eye for goal as well. I mean, absolute just assassin. He could have. I think he could have. Definitely could have gone on to be a number one striker for another team. The epitome of a team player. The epitome of somebody who, not saying he didn't have the best career. You look at the things that he won at this club. Again, his career was curtailed by injuries towards the end. I remember, I think the Roma game or whichever it was, 2007 was sort of last of his games. He had to retire slightly early. But what a servant, what a goal, what a player. Some people may legend him up because of that goal. But I think if we're being realistic, I think for me, Solskjaer is a hero, a cult hero. Absolutely brilliant. Just a shame him or Teddy couldn't start over Coke and Yorke. They were too good to be dropped. Exactly, and that's the firepower that we had. Now, I'm just going to put him in as well. Sheringham. And again, Sheringham has won it for me. Another cult hero. Again, Teddy. He came towards sort of end of that career as well. So he came in 97 to 2001, 153 appearances and 46 goals. Again, a wonderful player. Again, very intelligent, very fox in the box. Very England are 5-0 up. Oh, I couldn't tell you, my friend. Let's have a little look. Let's have a little look what England are doing. What England doing against Serbia? 5-0 up. Nice. Well done to England. But let's be fair, they should be beating them, right? But yeah. So for me, Teddy, again, what a great signing. He was one of those really intelligent players. Not the youngest when he came. I think he was 29, 30. So sort of, again, Ferguson was so good at getting those experienced strikers. Now, that'd be a lesson to us, now when there's kind of strikers that we are signing. There's a reason why Fergie had Sheringham, Solskjaer, Yorke and Co. He had a blend and a mixture of, kind of those mid-aged players all the way to that experience of players. Sheringham was an absolute master of link-up play. Again, another really intelligent, the way that he moved, the way that he finished. Teddy was an absolute brilliant, and for me, being part of the treble side, maybe not as much of a cult hero as Ollie, but for me, again, you can't score that goal in that final in that manner and not be a cult hero. So for me, absolute cult hero all day long for me. Cavani. Now, Cavani for me again. Cavani came in towards the end of sort of his career. 2020, 2022, 59 appearances and 19 goals. Again, not necessarily injury prone, but he was out here and there. I think he was a great player. Some of the goals that he scored, I thought were fantastic. There was a 40-yard goal that he scored. There was, and again, I plan to do this as a long form, and I had clips and stuff that I might add into this as well. But what a player, Cavani. Not the best Cavani, but still a great player. He showed glimpses of that. His movement in the box, the way that he headed, the way that he moved, the way that he shot. Such an experienced, fantastic player. And I think probably it's quite sad in some respects that a player who was here for a year or two, was actually probably one of the better strikers that we've had in the last 10 years. So Cavani, I agree. He did his best for the number 7 shirt, and I actually thought he was a really decent player. Now, let's go Rashford. Now, what do we do with Marcus Rashford? So, Marcus Rashford. So, let's give you Rashford stats. So, 400 games. 2000. Well, this is slightly older. So, over 400 games and over 130 odd goals. I'm going to put him as a great player. I think if he'd have stayed, and I think if he had got his head down, I think he could have achieved some great things at this club. So for me, I think he has to go down as a great player. Now, yes, I know he's gone on loan. He hasn't been the best over the last couple of years. He's still done some fantastic things. He's still a young guy. The talent is still there. I think Rashford, looking at some of the goals, looking at this, I think that Rashford for me, and I get it, he's not world class. I think you're right, Emmy. I think you could probably put him somewhere between good and great. I'm going to put him as a great player because I do think that if I look at the players who I think have been good, and again, you may be different to me, but I think he has to go down. I think the longevity, and yes, he's not been great for those 8 seasons. But he's still he's still won things, and I think he's been pivotal at some point. So for me, I'm not going to be sour about it. I think he was a great player. I think he could have been a cult hero, legend-wise. Never a legend for me. Player FC might think that. Lucky thing, I'm not watching the England game, my friend. I'm glad they're winning. Romelu Lukaku. Now, Lukaku, 2017 to 2019, 96 games and 42 goals. Lukaku. Now, Lukaku for me again is one of those players that I think I have to put him here as a good player. It's a tricky one, right? I think that Lukaku, his record's pretty good. I think he gets a bad rap. I really do. But at times he's unplayable. So for me, I think he was a great player. Again, he was better than a good player. And again, never going to be a cult hero, not a legend of this club. But for me, people may see it differently to me, and I know people don't necessarily like him. But for me, I think at times absolutely unplayable, and I think he was a great player. Thomas, good to see fit, fast players. Lucky they have to get to the World Cup first, yeah. So let's see. Now, I'm going to put this next player in as okay. Let's see. So I'm going to let you guys have this next pick, right? Van Persie. Where does Van Persie go? Now, do I put Van Persie as a cult hero? I don't know. Now, Van Persie was signed to win us the league. We achieved that and we won the league. Probably scored one of the best goals in his career. I'll leave that up to you. Where do you think Van Persie should be put? Do you think he's a great player? Do you think he's a cult hero? I said people let for England side now. He wants a cult hero. Yeah, I'm not gonna. Yeah, I think I agree with that one. I think that, as I've said, right, is that there are, hi Scott, there are players and they don't necessarily have to win loads and loads of cups. They don't necessarily have to, be the best world-class players. But to do what he did for that season, to come in, the money that will be paid for him and to win us the league and to score the amount of goals that he did and that goal that he scored as well against Villa, I think it was, a cult hero. Yeah, was he, would you call him a United great? Probably not. For me, when I think about all of our best players that, played for a number of years, is he up there? You could argue that. For me, not, but definitely for what he did in that league season. Van Persie stats. Let's have a quick look at his stats. So we've got Van Persie was 105 games and 58 goals. So again, not a bad return. Again, a play towards, I think it was 29-ish. Again, an absolute great player. I'm going to ignore this one because I think he shouldn't be there, but that's fine. Now, so the next play for me is one I am torn about, but I think I know where I would put him. Ruud van Nistelrooy. Now, Ruud van Nistelrooy for me, is he a legend of this club? Some people argue that he should be. I'm going to say he's a cult hero. Now, the reason why I say that, I don't know. And this is what I've been pondering about Ruud. So these are Ruud stats, right? 2001 to 2006. 219 appearances and 150 goals. I mean, that in itself is an absolute just ridiculousness, right? So, but then what I think as well is that Ruud unfortunately fell in between the treble season and then obviously left before we then won the Champions League again. Now I know Mark Hughes didn't win the Champions League. I get that. But I'm gonna let you guys pick this one. I am Titanium. Where are you from? I'm from the UK, my friend. I'm gonna give this one up to the chat because I'm torn. I think one of the best strikers that we've ever had, and I think legend. Are we gonna call him a legend? I'm gonna leave this up to you guys. I'm gonna put him there. I think when you talk about eras and when you talk about goals and when you talk about when you talk about things like that and you talk about goals and you talk about impacts of players at a club, a legend, I agree. I think Ruud, some of the things that he did, the only thing for me for Ruud is that he didn't win the Champions League. Doesn't mean he's not a great player, but those stats for me are absolutely ridiculous. And other than a certain player, nobody's ever come close to that. Other than people like Law and and those sorts of players as well. So if you have just joined, the reason why maybe some of the older players are not on here, because I can talk about these players because I lived this era. I'm not going to put players on here that I don't know about and can't talk about. I don't think that's fair. Doesn't mean that Law would definitely be like in this list, and these are just the list of strikers from about 92 that sort of I know. This list can feel free to get into the chat and let me know of the strikers that you think are legends or you think should be like on this list from 50s, 60s. But these are the players that I remember from my youth. Next one. I'm going to say this now. For me, another cult hero, Hernandez. No, I'm gonna go back on that. I'm gonna say a great player. Javier Hernandez for me. What a wonderful player. Played from 2010 to 2015, 157 games and 59 goals. I think he's on the cusp. I'm just trying to remember what he did. I mean, he's one of the only players I've ever seen score a goal by kicking a ball into his own face. Okay, Scott, I'm gonna give that up. I'm gonna give that up as a cult hero. Now, that was my initial reaction to that, to be fair. But I'm just trying to think what Hernandez did really to make him a cult hero. Now, again, I would give this up to the chat because you guys definitely have to have your say on this. I think that's only fair. I'm going to make myself a little bit smaller here. Transition it over. Hernandez. I always like Hernandez. Again, one of the only players to have the ability to kick himself in the face and score a goal. I'm with you as well. Super sub as well. Absolutely fantastic player. Scored some absolute ridiculous goals. One of the only players in history to kick himself in the face and score a goal. Brilliant player. Fantastic. Now we're getting on to the final load. Højlund. So Højlund is probably going to be the newest player on here. The fact that he's now gone. Where do you put Højlund? That is sort of where I'm at on this one. I think he's a good player. I think if we've been really harsh, not good enough, I think maybe he falls there. I think I've got to be honest on him. Part of it for me is on the basis that I don't think he got given the service. I think he came into a very toxic team. But is he a flop? I don't disagree. I can't disagree with you guys saying that he's a flop. I completely agree with that. But the reason for me why he's not a flop is on the basis that I think the club didn't do him right. So for me, the reason why he's not a flop is because I think if he'd have had the right service in this team now, I think he actually would have been a much better player. So for me, I'd bump him up. I do think there's a good player there, but like people like a Forlan, for example, you could probably say that Forlan might fall into the category as well. But Forlan has then moved on and done different things. So for me, Højlund is not good enough. But I also think that what saves him from being a flop is because I don't think he had the right people around him to help him score. However, that the price tag doesn't help. Have you got Hernandez? Yes, I have. Hernandez is on there. He got potential but didn't achieve it. Exactly. Yes, I do have Hernandez. Hernandez is on there. Hernandez is a cult hero. Feel free to get into the comments. Let me know. Ignore this kid down here. So, next one, Zlatan Ibrahimović. What are we saying on him now? He's pretty much everybody's cult hero, right? He's a legend of the game. I'm torn. I'm gonna leave this up to the chat. Actually, I want you guys to tell me where I should put him, because I'm torn between, no, this is strikers only. So Zlatan, what are we saying? Zlatan, for me, I think he falls somewhere between being a great player and cult hero. Enriquez, yeah, I think that's him down there, isn't there? Enriquez, I think I might have. That's the guy. It is the guy. Van Persie's on there as well. Yeah, Van Persie's on there as well. So Zlatan. Are we saying a cult hero? Okay, fine. Yeah, again, Zlatan for me again coming to this club. Played 53 times, scored 29 goals. Yeah, just. Again, brought that personality, absolute legend of a player. And I wouldn't go too far as saying that he's necessarily a legend of this club even. But, yeah, an absolute great player in his own right. Yeah. So, Thomas, yeah, Van Persie's on here as well. Falcao's on here as well, mate. Falcao is a flop. Van Persie, we're calling a cult hero as well. Zlatan, yeah, I think Zlatan again when he came to us, I think was 34. Great player. Again, that is coming into this league. I think scoring 24 goals in his first season as well. I mean, yeah, I think if you're going to get these older players, and you want them to come in to do a job, and you sort of want them to come in for that experience, Zlatan is the absolute kind of like the way to go. It's just a shame that he was injured for that final. Makeda's in there as well. Yeah, you just chucking names at me, mate. They're all in there. Makeda for me is a cult hero, and I will go back through those names as well. So we're now coming on to, and that is Enriquez. I think it is. I think you're right. For me, flop. Not really too much to say about that really. Yeah, just a flop. Now we're going to get on to. Let's go on to Martial. Great player. I think it's simple. For me, again, these are just opinions, right? You can argue good player. You can argue many things about him. Played for 9 years, 317 appearances, 90 goals. Now, the problem with Martial was injuries. Flop. Interesting, Rob. Evening all. Interesting flop, you say? Okay. Okay. So, when we get to the end of this, I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to change this order around. Agree with you, Thomas. Agree with you, my friend. That was an absolute amazing goal. Brilliant. So I'm going to give you guys an opportunity at the end of this bit to let's see if we agree. Get in your likes, your opinions on this one, and we can won the Ballon d'Or. Well, let's get into that as well. So Martial for me, was he a great player? Really, I'm going to bump him down to good player. Right now, obviously the first goal that he scored against Scott, you guys can absolutely have your opinions on that as well. For me, he was a good player. Injury-wise, towards the end, the last 4 seasons, it wasn't great. Injury attitude. Was he an attitude player? I don't know. I think you can. I think you can argue it. Those of you who think he's a flop, I get it. I think he's a very very divisive player. But for me, when I look at, on his day, he could have been world class on his day. He could also be utter dog poo as well. So I think when you average out world class and poo, I think you almost come to a good place. So for me, that's where I'm at from a logical perspective. But I'm not going to argue that. And again, you guys are going to have your opportunity. And if you are watching this after the event, then feel free to get into the comments. So we've got the last two. Really easy for me. Legend. Cristiano, legend. Yeah, of course he is. So let's put those two up there. So number one, let's go for Rooney first. So 2004 to 2017, 559 games, 253 goals. Absolute talent. One of the best players this country's ever seen. 16 years old. Now, I wanted to do this live because I was going to put in some videos and I was going to stick in some goals as well. Watching some of these goals that these players scored, Rooney in particular, the Newcastle goal that he scored when he got a bit annoyed and he absolutely smashed it into the back of the net. What a goal. The City goal, the Arsenal goal in the Champions League semi-final. I mean, there was too many career highlights, too many career goals. The epitome of what you want as a player, epitome of mentality, high IQ player as well, very, very intelligent player as well. I know he gets a bum rap sometimes about, he's not smart enough and all this stuff. Scott says, who do I think is better, Kane or Rooney? I think Rooney offers you more. I think Rooney is the better player. I think Kane is the better striker. I don't like Kane doing this American like a quarterback role. I don't like that. Kane is a striker. Rooney is a better footballer. Rooney is the all-round better player. Now, you could play Rooney in goal. You could play Rooney left back, centre back, defensive midfielder. You could play him anywhere on the pitch, and Rooney will give you a 7 out of 10 every week. Very, very high IQ. I think he's smarter than Kane. Kane is a better striker. Is he a better finisher than Rooney? Some say yes, but for me, I think there's no comparison. I think that Rooney is probably one of the best English players of all time. Again, as he's retired, people forget how good this guy was. Rooney was a talent beyond his years, ready to go at 16 years old. Came to this club at 18 years old. First game, Fenerbahce in the Champions League. Scores the perfect. He scores 3 goals. And I remember taking Giggsy, taking the ball, putting it down, and Rooney taking it off of Giggs and burying it in the back of the net. Now, Giggs had been there for 10, 15 years. Rooney was this young lad, comes into this team, and at 18 years old, takes the ball off of Giggsy and smashes it into the back of the net. And at that point, you just know. You just absolutely know. So Rooney, for me, was one of the best players of all time, and better than Kane. Lukaku is not a bad striker. Yeah, that's why Lukaku is in the great pile there. Cristiano. What can you say about him that hasn't been said? Now, I think we need to temper this with this is the Cristiano that played here. Cristiano had his best years away from the club, but Cristiano 2003 to 2009 and then back again in 2021, played 346 games and scored 145 goals. Now, the Ronaldo that came here wasn't, and the Ronaldo that left were two different players. Ronaldo won the Ballon d'Or here. won a Champions League, become one of the world's best players. Now, you can argue, does that make you a legend? It wasn't just that. It wasn't just that. It was just the way that he just, the impact he had on the English game. Just how good he was. I cannot epitomise, and I cannot get into words. Cristiano, those last 2 seasons, that particular last season that he had, those numbers and that level that he was at, I don't think anybody, and you can argue, other clubs will argue that, that other players have had a better season than that, but I think that's probably one of the best seasons of any player. The jump from 2 seasons prior to that, and then that season that he just became, he literally became an absolute legend of a player in that one season. The fact as well that and what people forget is Euro 2000, was it Euro 2008? I'm just trying to think. Euro 2008, where it was either 06 or 08 when he came back, and obviously him and Rooney had that little where Cristiano got him sent off in the quarterfinal, and for him to come back, and then for those two to behave and play in the way that they did, the pair of them together, I think the pair of them pushed each other on. I think people don't necessarily get that Rooney was levels ahead, and then he came back, and then he's the epitome of hard work. And then just as he left, I think Rooney and him, I think he was probably just above him, but Rooney, do not underestimate how good Rooney was. When we're talking about these two players, at that season when Cristiano left, Rooney, they were the same. Rooney, I think, was probably slightly better at that point on the basis. I think he had a better all-round game, but then obviously then he went up levels and levels and levels, went to Madrid. The numbers that he had there were just absolutely ridiculous. So, legend of the club. So let's go through now. So let's go through this list, and I want you to tell me what you think. Do you think that we're right? Do you want to change some around? So I'm gonna give this over to the chat now. So this is so I'm gonna read you my list, and then you can tell me then what you would like to change if you want to change any. So legends are Cantona, Hughes. So Mark Hughes is basically my pick. He's staying there. He's not going to go. He's my personal hero. So Hughes is staying there. Ruud van Nistelrooy, Rooney and Cristiano. So those are the legends. The cult heroes are McClare, Andy Cole, Dwight Yorke, Makeda, Berbatov, Solskjaer, Sheringham, Van Persie, Hernandez and Zlatan. Good players are Mason Greenwood, Tevez, Cavani, Rashford and Lukaku. Those are the great players. The good players are Dublin, Forlan, Welbeck, Michael Owen, Louis Saha, Alan Smith and Martial. Not good enough. Wilson, Josh King and Højlund. Flops are Weghorst, Sanchez, Falcao, Rossi, Fangzhou, Henrique's there at the end, Igalo, Manucho, Juff, and Bellion. So those are my flops. So let me know if you want to change any of those. Let me know who you think maybe should be replaced. Interested to know. Yeah, Rob, I agree. There are certain players. This is your strikers, my friend. Only strikers. I will do another list as well. So depending on how this video does, I will do another list as well on this one. So we are just ranking strikers. Now, yes, there may be some older strikers missing, like Law and etc. and those guys, but I'm ranking basically ranking players that I know, and I think that's only fair for me to rank players that I can basically talk about, because I know I've seen them, I've watched them play. There'd be no point in me, I know Law was a fantastic player, but there's no point in me trying to rank somebody based on something that I've not seen. Like, I sort of know they're good. It's not because I'm trying to disrespect them. It's just because I don't feel that I can talk about them in the way that they need to be talked about. So let me know in the chat. I'll give you a couple of minutes just to have a little look through, see what you think about the players. Now, I'm going to say some of the players that maybe I would move around. I don't actually know if I'd move any players around that much. I think that I think I'm happy. I think I'm pretty happy with that list. I think I've been fair to academy players as well. I think I have been quite fair to those players. Now, you can argue that some of these players have been flops. I know Scott's saying that Martial is a flop, so I wonder if Scott still thinks that Martial is a flop. Yeah. So for me, guys, that is my list. I'll go through it again. So legends are Cantona, Mark Hughes, Ruud van Nistelrooy. Think this is about right, Rob. It's amazing that somebody agrees. Again, if you're watching this after the event, obviously feel free to give us a like, favorite, and subscribe. Please get in. Let me know if you think there's anyone that we probably missed. I'm gonna move Martial down to flop. Just for Scott. As I've said, you guys have the right to have an impact on this list as well. So I think in the end, maybe Scott does have a point in regards to him. There was a price tag that was a big tag. Other than that, a season or two, and ultimately, what did he achieve? So I'm gonna let Scott have that one. Scott, I will give you that one, my friend. But other than that, I think legends for me are right. Eric Cantona, Mark Hughes, Ruud van Nistelrooy, Rooney, Cristiano, cult heroes, McClare, another absolute legend of mine. I think he's a great player. I'd put him in the legend, but then that's just me being silly. Andy Cole, Dwight Yorke, Makeda for the goal he scored against Villa and to win the league. So Berbatov, Solskjaer, Sheringham, Van Persie, Hernandez, and Zlatan. He could have been fantastic, but for me, he didn't cut it. It was the wrong time for him to come. I agree with you. Great players. So Greenwood, Tevez, sadly, Cavani, Rashford, and Lukaku. Good players. So Dion Dublin, Forlan, Welbeck, Michael Owen, Louis Saha, and Alan Smith. Not good enough, Josh King, Højlund, and Wilson. And flop, Weghorst, Sanchez, Falcao, Rossi, Fangju, Sibelian, Igalo, Manchu. I can't even say his blinking name. Manachu, Diouf, Enriquez, and Martial. So I think that's a fair list. Let me know in the chat what you think about that list. Do you think we've been fair? Do you think I've been fair in my list? Yeah, let me know what you think about that list. If you think I've been fair. So yeah, I other than that, anything else to catch up? I think England are winning or have won this evening. I can't say I've watched the match. Can't say I'm overly bothered about that particular match today. A couple of things I have seen before we go is I have seen Fabrizio Romano Greenwood, not sure. Maybe good, not great. Again, that's a legitimate one there, Rob. I can't really say too much on that one. I don't disagree with you. So a couple of things to what I've heard around the place. Apparently that we are going to go and sign a midfielder in the next window. So the January window is where we're apparently going to go and sign a midfielder. Belieber again is back on the agenda. So Gallagher, I believe as well, is back on the agenda as well. Now Real Madrid apparently been sniffing after Stiller. Arsenal have been sniffing after Stiller as well. So there are those players that maybe we had an opportunity to go and get, probably seem to be slipping through our fingers, sadly. England, people update me on England. I don't know the score. I will check that out for you now. I'm sure you guys can let me know about that. Let's have a little look. Where are we? What's the score? Honestly, trying to find a score is ridiculous. Where are we? 5 goals. Cool. So that's good for England. Again, so football is back on Sunday for us. City game, I will do a preview of the City game as well, hoping that my OBS behaves itself. I need to fix that before the next time. But yeah, again, depending on how well the video does, I will try and do another one of these for. I'd love Steeler, Belieber. What a midfield that would be. The problem is we need them now. Exactly, Rob. I agree with you. I don't understand why we would wait for another window to get these players. Why not just get them in this window? I think it's bizarre. I don't understand it. But we will see where we are after the City game. So I will do another one of these. I think I'll do one of these on midfielders next. I think there probably is going to be a lot more of those to be in this list. I think there was 41 options in this list, so I think there might be probably a little bit more than that for the midfielders. Let me know if you'd rather me do a goalkeeper one next. Let me know if you'd rather do a defence. Van VSP says, I'm not convinced that Belieber is good enough. Again, do you know what? I think that's a very legitimate thing to say. I mean, one season wonder potentially. When you say preview for City game, I'll do like a little what I think that the team will be. The press conference, because there will be a press one as well. So I'll do a preview for the City game, just in terms of we can talk about how we think that we'll do, what the team that you think will pick as well. I think Lemens may start. So I think it'll be really interesting to go through and cover that and go through the conference as well. I think I'm interested to see the injuries that we've got. I know Cunha didn't go away, so he should be all good. Delo, I think, come back injured as well, but he might be okay. So I'm going to be interested to see the sort of trainings as well. Yeah, that's what I'm on about. Yeah, so I'll do a preview for the City game as well. So guys, thank you for watching. Really enjoyed that. Really useful thing for me to do. One of the things I did enjoy about that was originally I was planning to do a video on it, just like a standalone one. I might do that for the next one, looking at the goals and that kind of stuff, and just what a fantastic trip it was. Looking at those players from when I was a kid, just amazing to relive those times, amazing to relive the glory years, looking at the amazing players, looking at the kind of flop players that we had as well. So, just an an absolute joy for me, an absolute joy to share this as well. Again, thank you for your input into this as well. And you know, guys, this show, I absolutely love these evening shows. Again, I'm going to try and do something different. Any suggestions for shows, then obviously feel free to give me a shout. And watch along on Sunday, JB. Yes, Scott, I will be doing a watch along for the City game as well. We'll see how that goes. And yeah, so I will be back soon. I'll be back tomorrow. Not sure what time. It depends on what breaks. Hopefully there'll be some sort of Amorin conference or something soon. We can talk about that. And yeah, so guys, thank you for watching. Again, it's been amazing. Have a good rest of your evening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being in the chat, the comments. You know, absolutely. I appreciate it. I appreciate each and every comment and view. I mean, absolutely amazing. It will be City 4-2. Scott, that's very, very specific. I think it'll be closer than that. I think we will win. I think it'll be 2-1. I do. I think we'll win. Yeah, I do. I mean, Scott, I'd love to win 4-2. But let's see. So I'll be back tomorrow. Have a good rest of your evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are in the world. You know, thank you again so much for watching. It means so much to me and this channel that you spend time here. I'm going to go off now and I'm going to absolutely batter OBS because it absolutely destroyed me tonight. But yeah, I'll be back soon, guys. Legends of the chat, thank you so much. And I'll see you on the next one, guys. Take care and I'll see you very, very soon.